We are recording again, and obviously I did not get all of that in one go. There's a couple of different places where I'm actually paying attention to the block hitbox here, and I think now's a good time for me to check to see who uses the direction. Get direction. I'm guessing... Okay, I see where this is. Okay, basically we use the direction as set in the CustomNPC behavior when the player character is asking the question, okay, which direction do I need to be nudged? And I don't know how well this is going to work when it comes time for the player character standing on top of an NPC that's moving diagonally. Oh well, I'll learn that soon enough. Okay, so back to the update method. Check to see if the player is currently standing on top of the block or not. Okay. We've already got nudges being added to the player here. Alright, so apparently this is only being used to order the list of blocks. So, shoot, I don't remember exactly why I ordered this list of blocks, but I'll just leave it as is for now. If the player is currently standing on top of the NPC, then we add nudges to the player saying, okay, this is how far the player is moving horizontally, this is how far the NPC is moving horizontally, this is how far the NPC is moving vertically. So my previous anxiety is for naught. Let's see. If the player was not standing on top of the NPC the previous tick and suddenly is, then we add a player stepped onto me event. Otherwise, if the player was standing on top of the NPC and now all of a sudden he no longer is, then we add a player stepped off of me event to the event queue. We set the X position and the Y position based on the next X and Y as determined in the collision detection and from the movement manager. If we're going down, then we add a falling event. And it's okay that we don't ask the question, was I falling in the previous tick of the clock? Because if you start falling, then the switch rule is immediately going to kick in and take you to a different behavior. So it's okay that we're doing it this way. Then we check to see whether the NPC is out of bounds for the room. If it is, then we add out of bounds to the event queue. We move all the hitboxes based on the change to the custom NPC's position. If there are animations, we update the animations. Finally, we iterate through the event queue. We let the movement... Actually, no, we're not... Okay, we are iterating through the event queue after all. And pretty much the only reason we're iterating through the event queue here is because we want to let the movement manager know if we've hit the ceiling, hit the wall, or hit the floor. Because the movement managers can do things differently based on that. Maybe the NPC will bounce off the ceiling and bounce off the wall and bounce off the floor and such. Maybe the NPC will simply turn around if it's marching back and forth. That kind of thing. You know, in retrospect, I must have glossed over the event that involves about to fall off the edge. Maybe I don't have one of those. Alright, well, not going to worry about that at the moment. I think the movement manager for telling the NPC to march back and forth and turn as soon as they hit a cliff, I think that the movement manager actually gets gets pointers to the tile map, which is the static blocks, and also has a reference to the list of moving blocks. I think that's how that works. Then we iterate through all the switch rules, and I believe that switch rules, yes, custom NPC behavior switch rule is again an interface, so any number of classes can fill this place in. Checks to see if we should switch to the behavior. We have the event queue, the player's position, the NPC's position, which direction the player is facing, and whether it's raining or not. And yes, wait a minute. Huh. I guess I never added a switch rule that checks for event flags. Oh well, I guess that's not a huge issue. The reason that I have which direction the player is facing is I wanted to set things up so that if you wanted an enemy that behaved like the Boo enemies from Super Mario, you could. And if we should switch to that behavior, then we call switch to behavior named. And obviously there's a lot of other commented out code here. And oh, now that's a little bit bizarre. I don't know why I set up the update method to return a custom NPC behavior object, but I did. Yeah, I think my idea was the update method would return the next behavior to work with, but I ended up not setting it up that way in the end. So that's something that can be cleaned up. That pretty much takes us through the custom NPC behaviors update method. Obviously there's a lot that I glossed over, but there is so much stuff in the custom NPC that there's just too much to show. The good news is that in this case, this will make the code Nazis a little bit happier in that the custom NPC switch rules are, and a lot of other classes are actually pretty small. Like, here's the one for being crushed. You maximize this and you can actually fit pretty much the whole class in just one window. I get the target behavior name, iterate through the list of events in the event queue, and if a crushed event is in there, then return true. We should switch to the behavior, otherwise return false. Let's see if I can find another one. Let's see. The message one. Once again, the whole class just about fits on one screen. We remember what message to listen for and the target behavior name, and iterate through the event queue. If the event has a message and the message attached to the event is the exact message that we're listening for, then we return true. Yes, we do switch to this behavior, otherwise we return false. One more, I think. Hopefully this is going to be one that's a little bit more complicated. Let's try the threshold one. Yeah, this one's just a bit more complex. We get which direction we should be checking for, what the threshold is, and that's just one integer there. And of course the target behavior. Let's see. Check to see whether we should switch to that behavior. And the position of the NPC is one of the things that we use to decide whether to switch to the behavior or not. And we check to see... I'm not exactly sure why I have a read method in here, but I guess it doesn't matter. Check to see whether the NPC's X position is less than or equal to the threshold. If this is a left-facing threshold. If it's to the right, then we check to see if the NPC is far enough to the right. Down, up, it's the same story. So there's a lot of smaller methods in the CustomNPC framework. This is where I can take advantage of the polymorphism and inheritance in Java. So that's essentially it for the CustomNPC framework, at least as far as it works on the in the game. I might do more of this looking at the editor, but I'm not sure. The CustomNPC system is intended to be one of the more powerful systems in the game. It's intended to allow for things like event flags and customizable enemies, customizable bosses. Obviously, I need to add a combat system that allows CustomNPCs to shoot back. There are no projectile attacks for CustomNPCs as of yet. There's no way to spawn additional CustomNPCs as of yet, and I would like to add that to the combat system as well. There's only one animation per behavior at the moment, and I'd like to add the ability to add more animations and play those animations either in response to dialogue commands or when an attack happens. There's also no way to spawn customizable items. I'd like to add customizable items to the game as well. And once I get done with all of that jazz, then it's going to be time to think about better customization for player characters, like the ability to add magic spells to player characters, the ability to add an energy bar, or replace the hearts that I have now with a health bar, that kind of thing. And I would love to do that, but it's probably going to take another year, probably 2 or 3 years actually. I've already been on this project for 5 years and probably spent well over a year on custom NPCs alone. But the custom NPC system has so much in it and it's so powerful that I feel like it's worth it. Anyways, my next code walkthroughs are going to be in the editor, and there's going to be some stuff in the editor that it's going to make the code Nazis think they need to take copying and pasting out of Eclipse altogether. Just forewarning you guys.